I did not play on this song, but it would have been a dream come true if I had. This is one of my favorite songs from the 80s, so just hang with me for another minute. I'm going to show you 3 parts I would have done over this. I often tell my students to play over great songs, and that's the best way to practice, so I'm trying to practice what I preach.
Well, I see them buried in a sheltered place in this town. They'll tell you that this rain can still never down. There is no blood around, see no sign of pain. Hey, no pain, seeing no rain, don't see no rain. Red rain is coming down. Red rain. Red rain is pouring down. Pouring down. Putting the pressure on much harder now. To return again and again. Just let the red rain splash you. Let the rain fall on your skin. I come to you, defenses down. With the trust of a child.
This song does not need me to be playing on it. In fact, I feel like saying no songs were harmed during the filming of this video. But it's just really fun, and I believe great to practice to great songs. And in this particular situation, I'm not really practicing. I'm practicing my job to come up with parts for songs. And the parts got simpler and simpler. I mean, my solution for what I do for a living has always been to take a simple part and make it simpler. There are definitely guys who I look up to as studio guitar players who I believe are much better qualified than I am, but I've always worked a lot. And part of it, I just try and play with as much heart as possible. I try and give as much as possible. And I do come up with simple parts that fit in. And really, here in the verse, this was the first thing I thought of. There are guitars on this song. I mean, David Rhodes and Daniel Lanois are credited. Songs like this, there's so much in there that gets kind of mixed below the threshold that I'm not really sure what the guitars are doing, but I hear them. So I just came up with something fun that this is like if I played on the song, it was happening right now. It's pure fantasy, but it's actually a good exercise and a good demonstration of what I do for a living. So the part in the verse is very simple. It's meant to be percussive and it's meant to be hypnotic, hopefully. It's really kind of the first thing I thought of. I never really doubt these R&B parts. If I come up with one, generally, I just stick with it. They're instinctive. So for the first half of the verse, I try and stay tucked, and I do that by muting with the side of my hand here and playing in the low octave. I leave a space each time just for air and for the cool keyboard parts. But the fourth time around, I pick up the keyboard because it's just, I can't resist. It's too fun. Then we move to the second half of the verse. I come up, but I keep it tucked. And that steps out a little bit. It's a bit bold, sort of like a horn line. But as the verse goes on, I'm trying to kind of increase my presence a little bit, which in this fantasy world of playing on somebody's song, I might do. I might start the first part of the verse kind of tucked and gradually kind of expose myself. Kind of expose the guitar part. Now we have 2 bars left in the verse. We're nearing the home stretch of the verse. I repeat this. And then I do what I like to call an event in what I like to call the corner. This is the last bar of the verse. I call it a corner. And I do this. Something spontaneous. Hopefully, it's a little bit indulgent, but I want to add excitement as we kind of segue into the chorus. And by muting it and doing it in the low range, And keeping it rhythmic, I mean for it to be something that you feel more than something that you hear. Now for the chorus, I make a radical shift. I turn on the ODR1 for lots of overdrive. And to match that and marry it, I move to the bridge pickup. It would be too dark and muddy if I stayed on the neck. And I use this guy for delays. Tap tempo. Sometimes it's hard to get the tempo with this old guy, but boy, it just sounds great. Anyway, so let's dive in and see what it sounds like. So my concept on this is to rise and never stop rising. The chords are C to D, so I just keep going up an inversion each time until I peak, and then I kind of drop down. There's heavy delay on this. I promise I'll give up delay tomorrow. I just have to use it one more time. I think the delay works on this because it makes it float, and hopefully you don't hear it. The trails get buried, and you can rub the bar and get some nice pitch thing. So I just rise. I play the bottom of the chord and the top of the chord, basically, and then I leave the open G and D for drones. So now I move on to the bridge and I become a soloist, a lead guitar player. That never would have happened. It's a total fantasy and a leap of faith and a real indulgence. This is the real indulgence, but it's fun and I think it's beneficial. And all that being said, there was a precedent for this. I mean, Stevie Ray Vaughan did this on David Bowie's Let's Dance album on a bunch of different songs. And I tried to do it responsibly and tastefully, and I'll explain that to you in a second. But the way I started it out was basically doubling the keyboard. So then up the octave, back down. And that was an interesting spot because the band goes from D over F sharp to F, and then the rest of the music is kind of doing a G tonality above it. I think it was one of those happy accidents that happens when people work hard on records. I tried to do scale type or blues type playing over that section, and I couldn't really make peace with it. But what I did find is basically this Stormy Monday thing. You know, the classic R&B Steve Cropper. I'm sure there were people before that. I just can't think of him. But this thing. And I kind of relied on that, and it worked well. And so what I do, I go. And then I kind of return to it the next two times as I'm dancing around. Now, when I say tastefully, hopefully my goal here was to work around the vocal, but I don't want to do a strict call and answer with the vocal because that sounds too obvious. So there are times when I'm hitting with the vocal and we're both kind of on top of each other, and then I clear out and leave phrases. And I think I was able to do that in just the right amount. There are certain places where his vocal is totally by itself, and then other places where I kind of blend in underneath, and other places where I play part of a riff, and then his vocal opens up by itself. And I thought it turned out pretty well, because you don't want to be total call and response. It sounds too obvious. It's nice if you have the impression that the guitar player is just channeling and blending sometimes and clearing out sometimes. And I think it worked for that. So let me take one more run at it and kind of keeping the same approach, but changing it up. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. If you are a subscriber, please ring the bell. It lets us let you know every time a new video is released. You can also support us by clicking the link below for the online masterclass. As I always say, we're up to over 100 hours of lessons and content, over 1,000 videos. There's a 14-day free trial. Take your time, take a long look. We'd love to have you join us.